And Marcos Jr. welcomed Filipina tennis star Alex Eala to Malacañang for a coming reception.
What if one of the greatest moments in your country's sports history didn't happen after winning a championship, but after losing? That is exactly what happened to Alex Eala. Just days after her unforgettable Wimbledon campaign came to an end, she received one of the highest honors the Philippine government can give an athlete. But the most unforgettable moment wasn't the award itself. It was what happened after the ceremony that left millions of Filipinos emotional. Imagine the president of the Philippines asking a 21-year-old tennis player for an autograph. It sounds unbelievable, yet that's exactly what happened inside Malacañang Palace. And that single moment perfectly captured how Alex Eala has become far more than a rising tennis star. She has become a symbol of hope for an entire nation. For years, tennis was never considered one of the Philippines' biggest sports. Basketball and boxing dominated the headlines while tennis remained in the background. But in just a few remarkable weeks, Alex Eala changed that story forever. When Wimbledon 2026 began, Eala arrived as the tournament's number 29 seed. In the global tennis world, that ranking was already impressive. But for the Philippines, it represented something much bigger. She became the first Filipina ever to enter a Grand Slam as a seeded player, already making history before she had even played her first match. Still, what followed exceeded every expectation. Round after round, Eala played with incredible confidence and composure. She wasn't simply surviving matches, she was proving that she belonged among the world's elite. Fans around the globe started paying attention, but back home in the Philippines, excitement quickly turned into national pride. Then came the match that completely changed everything. Standing across the net was one of the biggest names in women's tennis, a former Wimbledon champion and one of the tournament favorites. Most experts expected Eala's magical run to end there. Instead, she delivered the performance of her career. From the very first game, Eala showed absolutely no fear. Every rally became a battle. Every point seemed to carry the weight of history. The opening set stretched into a dramatic tiebreak that kept fans on the edge of their seats. Neither player wanted to give an inch. When Eala finally captured that opening set, the atmosphere inside Wimbledon instantly changed. Suddenly, people realized they weren't watching an underdog anymore. They were watching a genuine contender. The momentum completely shifted. Eala continued attacking with confidence, mixing powerful ground strokes with smart court awareness that frustrated one of the world's best players. Her fearless style shocked commentators and spectators alike. When the final point was won, center court erupted. It wasn't just another upset. It became one of the defining moments of the entire Wimbledon tournament. Within minutes, tennis fans around the world were sharing highlights of the match. Sports headlines celebrated the stunning victory, while social media exploded with reactions from Filipino fans who couldn't believe what they had just witnessed. That victory didn't simply earn Eala another place in the draw. It introduced her to millions of new fans across the world. More importantly, it convinced an entire country that it finally had a tennis superstar capable of competing with the very best. Her historic run continued into the fourth round, breaking another barrier that no Filipino tennis player had ever crossed at a Grand Slam. Although her Wimbledon journey eventually ended there, something remarkable had already happened. For the first time in Philippine tennis history, the conversation was no longer about potential. It was about achievement. People weren't asking whether Alex Eala could compete with the world's best. She had already answered that question herself. And while the tournament trophy slipped away, something even greater had quietly begun. Back home, millions of Filipinos weren't focused on the final score. They were celebrating the fact that one of their own had inspired an entire generation. What happened next would prove that this wasn't simply a successful tournament. It was the beginning of a national movement. Just days after leaving Wimbledon, Alex Eala returned home, unaware that the biggest honor of her career was still waiting for her. And what happened inside the Presidential Palace would become one of the most unforgettable moments in Philippine sports history. The moment Alex Eala stepped off the plane in Manila, it became clear that this was no ordinary homecoming. Hundreds of fans gathered to welcome her back, waving Philippine flags, cheering her name, and celebrating a player who had already made history. She hadn't returned with the Wimbledon trophy, but to millions of Filipinos that hardly mattered. She had already given the nation something far more valuable: belief. Less than 24 hours later, another surprise was waiting. Alex Eala received an invitation to Malacañang Palace, where President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. would personally recognize her historic Wimbledon campaign. It was an honor reserved for individuals who have brought exceptional pride to the Philippines on the international stage. Inside the palace, the atmosphere felt both formal and emotional. Government officials, sports leaders, members of Eala's family, and national media gathered to witness a ceremony that many believed would become part of Philippine sports history. As President Marcos presented the Presidential Citation, he praised Eala not only for her remarkable achievements on the court, but also for the way she represented the country with humility, determination, and grace. He emphasized that her success had inspired countless young Filipinos to dream bigger and work harder, proving that dedication can break barriers that once seemed impossible. For Alex Eala, this wasn't simply recognition for winning matches. It was recognition for changing the way an entire country viewed tennis. But then came the moment that nobody expected. After the official ceremony ended, the atmosphere suddenly became much more personal. President Marcos smiled and admitted something that instantly captured everyone's attention. He said he was a genuine fan of Alex Eala. Then, in a moment that quickly spread across television and social media, the president accepted signed tennis balls and baseball caps from the young tennis star. Think about that for a second. The president had just presented one of the nation's highest recognitions. Moments later, he became the one asking for her autograph. That simple exchange perfectly symbolized how extraordinary Alex Eala's rise had become. For a brief moment, it wasn't just an athlete receiving an honor. It was an entire nation expressing its admiration for someone who had inspired millions. The images from that ceremony quickly circulated across the Philippines. Fans described the moment as emotional, unforgettable, and deeply meaningful. Many believed it represented more than a celebration of athletic success. It represented a turning point for Philippine tennis itself. The recognition didn't stop there. Former world number 1 Caroline Wozniacki also shared her thoughts after watching Eala compete at Wimbledon. She praised the young Filipina's all-around game, her intelligence on the court, and her fearless attitude against top-ranked opponents. Perhaps most importantly, Wozniacki predicted that tennis fans would be seeing Alex Eala competing at the highest level for many years to come. Coming from a former Grand Slam champion and one of the most respected voices in tennis, those words carried enormous weight. For Filipino fans, it confirmed what they had already begun to believe. Alex Eala wasn't enjoying a lucky tournament. She was establishing herself as one of the brightest young stars in women's tennis. At just 21 years old, she had already reached a career-high world ranking and achieved milestones no Filipino player had ever accomplished before. And the most exciting part: her journey is only beginning. With major tournaments still ahead, including the North American hardcourt season and the U.S. Open, new opportunities continue to await. If Wimbledon showed the world what Alex Eala is capable of, the months ahead may reveal just how high her ceiling truly is. Sometimes greatness isn't measured only by trophies. Sometimes it's measured by the people you inspire, by the dreams you awaken, by the barriers you break. Alex Eala may not have lifted the Wimbledon title this year, but she returned home having accomplished something that will be remembered for generations. She united a nation. She inspired future athletes. She changed the history of Philippine tennis forever. And if her remarkable Wimbledon journey is only the beginning, then the biggest chapters of Alex Eala's incredible story may still be waiting to be written. Because legends aren't created by one tournament. They're built one historic moment at a time.